Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive, where we dig into some pretty interesting stuff. And today we're going to be looking at neuroscience.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so specifically, we're going to be looking at how you can maybe give us some clues to live a better life, more fulfilling life and all that.
I love it.
Yeah, so we're going to be taking a look at this article by Marynês Pereira, who is a neuroscientist. And she suggests that a lot of us might be engaging in self-sabotage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, without even knowing it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to crack open the brain, so to speak, and see what's going on.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we've got 8 key lessons here that we're going to dive into. And the first one is this idea of the fluidity of relationships.
Okay.
So I have to admit, when I first saw this one, I kind of raised an eyebrow because the idea is that brain synchronicity, like when you're on the same wavelength with somebody,
Right.
it's not actually constant.
Yeah, it's easy to think that if you have a really strong connection with somebody, that it's always going to be there. You know that you're always going to be on the same page.
Right, exactly.
But Pereira points out that it's more dynamic than that. It's like anything else in life, it kind of ebbs and flows,
It's like a dance.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like a dance. There's moments of closeness and distance even in the best relationships.
Okay, so how does this benefit us?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you saying that we should just be okay with distance in our relationships?
Not necessarily. I think what's important is that we don't fight those natural changes that are always happening. Sometimes we try to hold on to relationships that have maybe run their course, or we try to force connections that just aren't really working anymore. And actually that can block us from making new connections that might be better, It's kind of like when you have a garden that's overcrowded, you have to make some space to let new things grow.
That's a great analogy. So by letting go of some of those relationships, we're not just making space for new ones, but also opening ourselves up to new experiences maybe that fit better with where we are now.
Exactly. It's not about just ditching everyone we know or anything like that. It's more about understanding that relationships change just like people change.
Okay, I think I can get on board with that. So our next lesson focuses on this idea of a mental diet.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful concept when you think about it because it connects to all the choices we make every single day.
It really does. Just like we feed our body with the food that we eat, we also feed our minds with all the information we take in, whether it's social media or the news, or even just the conversations we have.
And even just like the places we go.
Yeah, totally. And the environment we put ourselves in.
So it really makes you think, are we feeding ourselves junk food or are we getting those good brain-boosting nutrients?
That's the question, isn't it? And just like a bad diet can lead to health problems down the road, a mental diet full of negativity or toxicity can really impact our mental well-being.
All right, so it's more than just limiting your screen time. It's about being really intentional with what we allow into our minds.
Exactly. It's about asking yourself, what am I reading? Who am I spending my time with? Are these things adding value to my life, or are they dragging me down?
Right, so maybe like creating a mental sanctuary.
I love that. Yeah, a space that's free from clutter and negativity. And the great thing is that our brains can actually change and adapt. So the more we feed it positive things, the stronger those neural pathways become.
So we're actually training our brains to focus on the good stuff.
Exactly.
I like that. So it's not about pretending that the negative doesn't exist, but it's about consciously choosing to focus on things that make us feel good.
Yeah, and that choice can have a huge impact on our overall perspective and how we experience the world.
Okay, so this actually reminds me of something else that Pereira talks about, which is self-care, which is our next lesson.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, myself included, could use a reminder to put ourselves first sometimes.
Definitely. Self-care is so often seen as a luxury or something we do if we have extra time. But Pereira makes it clear that it's absolutely essential for our brain health and just our well-being in general.
Yeah, but it can be so hard to prioritize.
It can. And I think a lot of that comes from, we're so used to putting other people's needs first or feeling guilty if we take time for ourselves.
Yeah.
But Pereira points out that our brains, specifically the prefrontal cortex, which is the part that helps us plan and make decisions,
Right.
that part actually needs to be trained to prioritize our own needs.
Oh, interesting. So it's not that we're being selfish, it's that our brains aren't wired that way to begin with.
Exactly. And especially these days, we're constantly bombarded with demands and expectations from the outside world.
Uh-huh.
It can be really hard to even hear what our own needs are.
So how do we retrain our brains to actually put ourselves first?
It's about creating new habits and routines that support that shift. Like Pereira suggests actually scheduling time for things that nourish us, whether it's exercise or spending time in nature or even just having some quiet time to think.
I like that.
Yeah, and these activities can actually help strengthen the prefrontal cortex so we get better at managing stress and making healthier choices.
Okay, so it's about making self-care non-negotiable and not just something we squeeze in if we happen to have time.
Exactly. And as we do that, we'll start to see positive changes in other areas of our lives, more energy, better focus, just an overall sense of well-being.
It sounds pretty good to me. I'm already thinking about how I can rework my schedule. So before we get too carried away with that, let's move on to lesson 4, which tackles a topic that I think a lot of people struggle with, and that is resilience to rejection.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. And Pereira explains that it's actually rooted in our biology. Our brains, specifically the amygdala, which processes emotions like fear, actually interprets rejection as a threat.
Wow, so it's like a primal response.
Yeah, pretty much. But here's the good news. Neuroscience tells us that we can actually rewire how we perceive rejection.
Oh, that's interesting. So we can actually change how our brains respond.
Yeah, so instead of seeing it as a personal attack or a sign that we're not good enough, we can choose to see it as just a normal part of life.
Okay.
It's an opportunity for growth, a chance to learn and adjust our approach.
So it's not about becoming immune to rejection. It's about changing how we think about it.
Yeah, exactly, and letting go of that feeling of threat.
I like that. So it's about being kind to ourselves, recognizing our strengths, and understanding that our worth doesn't depend on whether someone else says yes or no.
Right, rejection doesn't define us. It just redirects us.
And who knows, it might redirect us to something even better.
Okay, I'm feeling a lot more optimistic about rejection now.
Yeah.
So let's keep moving with lesson 5. This one is about taking responsibility,
Okay.
which might sound a little intimidating at first.
It can, but it's really about recognizing the power we have to create our own lives.
Right.
Pereira really emphasizes the importance of moving beyond past traumas and taking ownership of our present and our future. And that's where neuroplasticity comes in.
Okay, so remind me, what is neuroplasticity again?
Oh, it's just our brain's amazing ability to change and adapt throughout our lives. It means that we're not stuck with the way things are. We're not limited by what's happened in the past.
So we can actually rewire our brains.
Yeah, literally. We can create new neural pathways that support greater happiness and fulfillment.
Wow, so even if we've had difficult experiences, we're not destined to repeat them.
Nope. Our brains can evolve and change.
That's pretty incredible. So taking responsibility means we acknowledge those past experiences, but we don't let them control us.
Right. And it also means recognizing that we have choices in every moment. We can choose how we respond to things and how we shape our experiences moving forward.
But I mean, that doesn't mean it's easy, right? Sometimes those past traumas can feel really overwhelming.
Of course. And that's when seeking professional help can be so valuable. Therapy can give us tools and strategies to process those difficult emotions and develop healthy ways of coping.
Right, so it's not about minimizing those experiences, but it's about empowering ourselves to move forward and create a better future.
I love that. And taking responsibility isn't about blaming ourselves for things. It's about recognizing that we have agency and that we get to choose how we want to live our lives.
Okay, we've covered 5 pretty amazing lessons already, and I'm already feeling like my perspective is shifting a bit, but we have a few more to go. So let's move on to lesson 6, which is all about prioritizing quality over quantity when it comes to our experiences.
Okay, interesting.
So what does neuroscience have to say about this one?
Well, Pereira explains that deep connections and really meaningful experiences actually have a powerful effect on our brain's reward system, which is the part that's responsible for those feelings of pleasure and motivation.
So it's not just about having a lot of friends or going to a lot of parties.
Yeah.
It's about how deep and meaningful those connections are.
Exactly. It's about those genuine interactions, the activities that truly engage us and the experiences that really resonate with us on a deeper level.
I can definitely see that. It really makes you think about how often we get caught up in the busyness of life.
Yeah.
Chasing achievements and trying to keep up with everyone else. But are we actually enjoying it? Are we really fulfilled?
It's a good question to ask yourself. Are we just collecting experiences, or are we choosing things that truly nourish us?
Right. So it's about being more intentional with our time and energy and making sure we're investing in things that actually matter to us.
Exactly. It's a good reminder to slow down, savor the moments that matter, and cultivate experiences that bring us lasting joy.
Okay, that's beautiful. We've explored 6 fascinating lessons so far. I'm already feeling a shift in my thinking, but we've got 2 more to uncover, so let's dive into lesson 7, This one is all about cultivating authentic self-esteem.
I like that.
Yeah. So what does neuroscience have to say about that one?
Well, this lesson encourages us to define our own values and goals, free from all the pressures and expectations that society throws at us.
Okay.
It's about recognizing our own unique strengths and celebrating our achievements no matter how small they may seem.
So it's about tuning out all the noise and comparison and focusing on what truly matters to us.
Exactly. And that can have a huge impact on our self-esteem. When we define success on our own terms, we free ourselves from all that self-doubt and comparison that can really erode our sense of worth.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's about embracing our individuality and celebrating our own journey, not someone else's.
Exactly. And it's also about recognizing that our worth is inherent. It doesn't depend on what we achieve or what other people think.
Right, we're already worthy, just as we are.
Exactly.
Okay, I really like that. So it's this idea of authentic self-esteem. It's about finding that confidence and self-acceptance that comes from within, not from chasing approval from other people.
Exactly. And when we operate from that place, that place of self-love and acceptance, we're free to pursue our passions, embrace new challenges, and really live a life that's true to who we are.
Okay, so on to our final lesson, and I'm excited about this one because it's all about making time for fun,
Yes.
which, let's be honest, we could all use a little more of.
Absolutely. And it's not just about indulging our inner child or anything. It's actually crucial for our brain health.
Wait, really? So having fun is good for our brains.
Yeah, it is. Engaging in things that we enjoy actually triggers the release of dopamine, which, as we talked about earlier, is linked to motivation and pleasure.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's actually creating positive changes in our brains.
Exactly. And Pereira really encourages us to be proactive about exploring different activities and discovering what truly brings us joy.
Okay.
Whether it's trying new hobbies or spending time with loved ones or just doing things that make us laugh.
Right. So making it a priority, not just something we do if we happen to have time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when we make time for those things, the things that light us up, it can have a ripple effect in other areas of our lives. It can boost our energy, our creativity, our overall well-being.
So it's like giving our brains a much-needed vacation.
Exactly. We wouldn't expect our bodies to function properly without rest and rejuvenation, so why would we expect anything different from our brains?
That's a good point. Making time for fun and leisure, it's not selfish. It's an investment in our overall well-being.
I agree.
This has been such an eye-opening exploration of how neuroscience can offer practical guidance for living a more fulfilling life. We've covered so much ground, from the fluidity of relationships to the importance of a mental diet, self-care resilience, taking responsibility, prioritizing quality experiences, cultivating self-esteem, and of course, making time for fun.
It's amazing how these seemingly separate lessons are all actually interconnected.
Yeah, they really are.
They work together to create a more joyful and meaningful life.
I think before we move on to explore those connections in more detail, let's give credit to Marynês Pereira for her insightful work in bringing these lessons to light.
Yeah, her research offers a fascinating glimpse into the power of understanding our brains and using that knowledge to create positive change.
Okay, so let's take a quick pause here and let these ideas sink in. When we come back, we'll dive even deeper into how these 8 lessons connect and create a path for personal growth and fulfillment.
And we'll explore some practical strategies for actually applying these insights to our everyday lives. So grab a brain-boosting snack and we'll be right back.
Sounds good. All right, so we're back, and we've been talking about these 8 lessons from neuroscience for a more fulfilling life, and I'm really interested to see how they all kind of fit together.
Yeah, me too. It's not just about applying each one individually, it's about seeing how they work together and build on each other.
Exactly. So for instance, we talked about the fluidity of relationships and how letting go of some can make room for new ones.
Right, and if we connect that with taking responsibility, we see that we have a lot of power to choose which relationships we cultivate and which ones we decide to move on from. We're not just passive.
Yeah.
We're active participants in shaping our social world.
Yeah, exactly. So recognizing when a relationship has run its course and making that conscious decision to step back, even if it's hard.
Exactly. And that ties in with what we were talking about with the mental diet, too. Being mindful of the people and information we surround ourselves with helps to create a more supportive environment for us to grow.
It's like weeding out the toxic stuff that just drains our energy and focus and making room for things that actually make us feel good.
Yeah, and the more we do that, the more we cultivate fulfilling relationships and a healthy mental diet. the easier it becomes to prioritize self-care too.
Right, because we're already feeling supported and energized.
Exactly. We're more likely to invest in those activities that bring us joy and make us feel good when we're surrounded by positive influences.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that also makes us better equipped to deal with challenges like rejection.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because we were talking about how our brains see rejection as a threat.
Right. But when we've taken good care of our mental and emotional health, we're going to be more resilient and less likely to take that rejection personally.
So self-care is not just about pampering ourselves. It's about building up that inner strength and resilience.
Absolutely. And that resilience gets even stronger when we take responsibility. When we realize that we can't always control what happens, but we can control how we respond.
So instead of getting stuck in the past or blaming others, we can focus on what we can learn and move forward from there.
Exactly. And that sense of agency combined with self-compassion can be incredibly empowering, especially when we're dealing with past traumas. Understanding that while our past experiences may have shaped us, they don't define who we are or what we're capable of.
Right. We have the power to heal and create a better future.
And sometimes that means getting professional help. Therapy can be so valuable in giving us the tools and support to process those difficult emotions and find ways to move forward.
Exactly. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength and commitment to our well-being.
I agree. Okay, so we talked about self-care, resilience, taking responsibility. Where does prioritizing quality over quantity fit into all of this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, I think when we focus on those deep connections and meaningful experiences, we're more likely to feel a sense of purpose and fulfillment.
Right.
And that can give us the energy and motivation to take responsibility for our lives.
It's like those experiences fuel our personal growth.
Yeah, and they also contribute to a more authentic sense of self-esteem. When we have people around us who appreciate us for who we are and we're doing things that align with our values, we naturally feel a stronger sense of belonging and self-worth.
And then that self-esteem gives us the confidence to make choices that are true to ourselves, which reinforces that sense of agency and purpose.
It's a beautiful cycle.
Yeah.
It all comes back to understanding and taking care of our brains.
And of course, let's not forget about having fun.
Of course not.
It's not just a luxury, it's actually essential.
Absolutely. When we do things that bring us joy, our brains release dopamine, which boosts our mood, our motivation, our creativity. It's like a recharge for our brains so we can tackle challenges with renewed energy and focus.
I really love how all of these lessons are interconnected. They create this holistic approach to living a more fulfilling life. It's not about being perfect. It's about understanding ourselves, making conscious choices, and embracing the journey of growth and self-discovery.
And recognizing that we have a lot more power to change our brains and our lives than we might realize.
And that's a really powerful message.
It is. Life can be challenging, but we're not helpless. We have the tools and the ability to create positive change both for ourselves and the world around us.
As we're looking back at all these lessons from neuroscience, I'm realizing that a lot of this stuff really challenges those typical ideas about happiness and success.
It really does. It's like Pereira is encouraging us to take a more authentic approach, instead of just trying to fit into this mold that society creates.
Right. It's about figuring out what actually makes you happy, not what you think you should be doing.
Exactly. And that shift in focus is so important for finding true fulfillment. It's not about external validation or achievements. It's about aligning your life with your values and your passions.
And I think a big part of that is self-compassion, which seems to be a theme throughout all of these lessons.
Oh, absolutely. It's about treating ourselves with kindness and understanding, recognizing that we're all on a journey and we're not always going to get it right.
Right, and that it's okay to not be perfect.
Exactly. We all stumble and make mistakes, but it's how we learn and grow. So instead of beating ourselves up, we can choose to learn from those experiences and become more resilient.
So accepting ourselves for who we are, flaws and all.
Exactly. And knowing that we're worthy of love and kindness even when we make mistakes.
And I think that self-acceptance makes it easier to let go of relationships that aren't serving us anymore.
It does. To embrace that fluidity and make room for new connections that are more in line with who we are now.
Right, and to recognize that change is a natural part of life, both for ourselves and for our relationships.
And sometimes letting go is the best thing we can do for our own growth.
Exactly. And when we do that, we open ourselves up to so many new possibilities.
Yeah.
To explore different interests, build new connections, discover parts of ourselves we didn't even know were there.
It's exciting, isn't it?
It really is. And that ties back into the mental diet too. Being mindful of the information we consume, the people we spend time with, and the environments we choose to be on.
Exactly. It's all about creating a mental space that supports our well-being.
Right. So just like we nourish our bodies with healthy food, we need to nourish our minds with things that make us feel good.
And that helps to build authentic self-esteem.
Right. Not based on what other people think, but on a genuine understanding of our own worth and value.
Exactly. It's about celebrating our unique strengths and recognizing that our journey is our own.
So finding that inner confidence and self-acceptance.
And when we have that, we can pursue our passions and live a life that's truly authentic to who we are.
I love that. And I think that's the heart of living a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
It's not about achieving some specific goal or reaching some destination. It's about embracing the journey of self-discovery and growth.
It's about showing up every day, learning, evolving, and becoming the best version of ourselves.
And remembering to be kind to ourselves along the way.
Absolutely. Celebrating our progress and staying curious about the incredible potential that we all have.
This has been such an amazing conversation. It's given me so much to think about, and I feel like we've all gained some really valuable insights.
I agree. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of neuroscience and how it can help us live more fulfilling lives.
Remember, the journey to fulfillment is ongoing. There's no finish line. It's about embracing the process, the ups and downs, the continuous learning that comes with being human.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.